Hello, everyone. Hello, and happy Wednesday. Welcome to They Say. My name is Allison McFarland, founder and CEO of Allison McFarland Inc. And I am just so honored and excited to be here on yet another Wednesday to just talk to just another phenomenal guest. And I am so honored to have this legend here amongst us. I don't know. I feel so honored. Like I feel like my guests are going up and up. So I feel so honored when I get this, people that speak all over the nation in the room with us. So I feel so privileged to have David here with us today, the CEO of Houston Housing Authority. So I'm just honored that he said yes to me. This particular episode is episode 12. So I thank you for being my 12th guest on They Say. And we're talking about navigating leadership and just want to know your story, David, because you have such a dynamic, powerful, impactful story. And the greatest part is you're just only been in Houston for 2 years. So I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've made some major impact.
So go ahead. Sorry.
No, I said you've made some major impact. But yes, please introduce yourself. Tell us all the fabulous things that I love about you.
My name is David Northern, Senior, and I'm born and raised in Gary, Indiana. I've been through a few obstacles in life, but coming from Gary was kind of rough. Going to Ball State, wanting to play football, and also end up boxing, winning Golden Gloves. So I continued my education at Indiana University with a Master's of Public Administration. My undergrad was accounting. And so, through a housing industry, you got to have all these certifications and things like that. And I was really fortunate to enter a program at Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. It was called Achieving Excellence in Community Development. It was a 2-year program. It was very intense. And they only selected 50 people out the country a year to be a part of that program.
Wow.
Well, every 2 years. Yeah. So been in housing like 28 years. Went around. I've been a CEO at 5 different housing authorities, won twice, and just worked my way through. I was blessed and fortunate also to be nominated and approved by my peers to be the national president of the Public Housing Authorities Association in DC that oversees about 2,200 housing authorities throughout the country.
See, that's what I said. I couldn't have spit that out like you. That is amazing. And congratulations. And the crazy part is you're really just getting started. And that's what I love about it. So
I'm excited. Secretary Fudge just resigned. So you just never know what happened later on.
Hey, I'm just happy to get you before you go up all the way up. So I'm just happy you say yes to me.
No problem at all.
Yes, I appreciate that. So I appreciate that. Before we get fully started, I just want to publicly acknowledge one of my really dear friends. She lost her son over the weekend. So I definitely want to just acknowledge them and send out my love and support to them and just definitely tell them that our prayers are with them and we love and adore them. So I just make sure I get that out there. But yes, David, now back to you, superstar, all-star of America.
So I call you Wonder Woman.
You call me Wonder Woman. Yeah. I don't know why. I just I take off. I think my cape has been taken off. It's too much sometimes. So you coming from the inner city, because Indiana is a busy place, like you said, and it's I don't want. Would you say it's like an impoverished place, or kind of give us a background about it?
Well, so Gary, Indiana, actually, when I came in, it's right by Chicago. So it's like 20 minutes from Chicago. On the south side of Chicago, in a sense. Me growing up, it was the murder capital. It was a lot going on. Gary was one of the cities that had one of the first black mayors, Mayor Hatchett. And after that happened, we had urban sprawl. So, all the Caucasians and businesses left Gary and started building the suburbs. Mm-hmm. And so we had our steel mill. So we was known for a steel mill factory. A steel mill city. Beautiful Lake Michigan. But even with the steel mills, they get a lot of tax abatements, and the individuals that was working there was the people living there. So then they took that tax base out to the suburbs. So it was challenging. Murder capital. It was a whole lot going on. We was a murder capital for a few years that I was raised there. And actually, during my story, and I'm always honest about what goes on. So my mother had me when she was pretty young, 17, but she was a scholar in school. She ended up getting an undergrad in accounting a semester after me. So I beat her in it. So, my dad, my biological dad just wasn't doing too well. He was in jail most of my life. We really don't have a positive relationship. We talk, but we don't really spend time together. My stepfather stepped in and he did a great job helping. My grandmother basically raised me, allowed
Okay.
my mother to go to school. So I had a lot of obstacles to overcome.
Yeah.
A couple of them being in Gary and not really having that solid foundation and father figure at the time. I didn't take the standardized test seriously. So I would
Mm-hmm.
just mark whatever. So they labeled me as having a learning disability. Right. And so,
Mm.
that was a challenge as a young person in school coming out. I played football again. So I was pretty good. So, it was rough, but I was able to smooth things out, with by the grace of God and so much support and people support me. And that's one of the reasons why I do a lot of mentoring and supporting individuals now.
So let's unpack some of that because you gave us like that was like rapid fire. I love it. So let's unpack some of that. So your mom had you at 17.
Yeah.
So essentially, you and your mom grew up together. Is that fair
Yeah.
to say? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you and your mom grew up together. What was instilled in you to make you want to defy the odds? Like, what did would your grandma place at you? Like, help us understand that because you've accomplished some really amazing things.
Well, one thing is this, and it's unfortunate this happened to you. They say you're going to be just like your
Uh-huh.
father. I
Okay.
said I wouldn't do that.
Yep.
Instead of tearing down communities and things, I'm gonna build them up. I'm gonna work
Yeah.
hard to overcome the obstacles I face. I'm gonna try to stay out the streets, work hard in school. I had the sports that really helped me, accomplish some of that. But it was a lot. Being raised by my grandmother, I was instilled with like old school, uh, you know, type thinking. I know how to
Okay.
wash, clean, all that kind of stuff because your grandma don't play. And I
Yeah.
know, I know it's hard to get kids spanked now, but believe me, growing up, that kind of helped me stay away from things because my grandmother didn't play about that stuff. So
Okay. So she kept you on that straight and narrow path.
yeah, yeah.
So how did you, with it being the murder capital at the time you were being raised, and so how did you like find community to make sure that you is outside your grandmother? Like, how did you make sure as David make sure that you stayed on that path?
Well, my mother was really supportive. She always, made sure I was into different sports and things like that, baseball, football. So those teams and those team environments really helped me because you
Okay.
build solid relationships and you learn how to win and lose. It brings out a lot of leadership in individuals, and also my community. You have gangs throughout the cities, but when you're in a community, when things happen and occur, like I said, we was the murder capital. Somebody gets shot at school from another gang or something. The principal call in the communities, not just the gangs, the communities, the sports teams, because we're all close together. And if somebody hurt and harm one of our individuals, sometimes we may, support them. And sometimes that support may not be as popular when we're that young.
Mm. Okay, that's
It,
good.
it was like it was basically the village.
Okay.
Whichever villages was the football team, the coaches supporting me, other players, whether it's the basic community.
So I love that. And I think that's something that I don't want to say we stepped away from, but I don't think the village is as important now. What is your thoughts on that?
I think I don't see it no more, right?
Yeah.
When I was grew up, if Miss Jones down the street saw me do something wrong, she spanked me, then sent me to my grandmother, and she spanked me, right? And so
Hmm.
we had that respect for our elders. Now, young people really don't respect our elders. The kids in school don't respect the teachers. Again, I said back in the day, we got paddles at school. Some
Hmm.
of the things I didn't do because I was scared that Mr. Mitchell or Mr. Horn was going to get me, right? I
Okay.
didn't want to get paddled. I got it a
Right.
couple times, and after that, no more.
Right. So you all it took was you a couple times and then you were done.
I was
Well,
good.
definitely. So hey, I'm glad that you were done. So with that being said, though, what I appreciate is the fact that it's a reverence that you grew up with, and I think that's why. Not think I understand why you were able to be successful because you made that conscious decision early on to defy what they say. Hey,
They said,
uh,
I,
do
I slipped that in there for you.
hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I knew this was going to be a good one because most people kind of mix the day stay, but I knew you would get it. So I'm appreciative. But you're able to defy what society said your norm was going to be based off of your father.
Yeah.
So has that been like the feel that has kept you like pushing further? Like when things get tough, when your back gets against the wall, what keeps you motivated to keep going?
Well, my faith in the Lord, for one thing.
Okay.
Back home, I was a deacon. I haven't really gotten to the church here yet. It's been so busy. But I really feel like, that was something that propelled me, or having, they saying I had a learning disability, right? It made me
Yeah.
really motivated to say, hey, I'm going to do better. I'm going to get more involved. Regardless if, I fall down, I have to get back up.
Right.
Even with my father, as you mentioned, it helped me show that, some of the things, he was a leader also, right? He was
Yeah.
a leader, but what he did wasn't right. What I'm
Right.
doing is right. The same skill sets. You just got
Yeah.
to use it differently.
Ooh, man, that's good. So you gonna skip around. We're not gonna stay structured because
That's
this
hey,
this
that's
is
that,
not gonna, it's
whatever.
not gonna work. So let's talk about that because you just brought off something that even though you see those skill sets, doesn't mean that you can either choose to apply them correctly or choose to apply them incorrectly. Is that essentially what you're saying to us?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So tell us more, David, because that's huge in leadership. Like I wasn't even gonna go here this early, but let's go. Since you've opened the door, let's go.
Well, you learn from everybody. You learn what to do and what not to do. And
Okay.
sometimes it's not really having that mentor. Sometimes it's just sitting back watching how,
Right.
I remember first getting out of college, starting my first housing authority. My boss really just didn't he didn't come and say, hey, I'm gonna mentor you. I just watched him. I watched how he walked. I watched how he dressed. Because my stepfather worked in the mill, so he wasn't wearing suits like that. I watched
Right.
his mannerisms, watched how he shake people's hands, and he was my mentor. Later on, he realized he was my mentor. But a lot of that
Mhm.
is learned activities.
So it's watching those because a lot of people are like, and this is a question that I get often, and I know with you're so busy. So I thank you for being gracious enough to spend this time with us. But a lot of people with when you get to a certain level, and I would say not even success wise or just what you've attained, it's harder to gain access because you don't really have a lot of time to give. So can you kind of speak to that because you definitely live in that to whom much is given, much is required. So help us understand that.
Well, there's no doubt that I have a tremendous responsibility in terms of running the Houston Housing Authority, which is
Yeah,
part of which is the fourth largest city in the nation.
right,
Sometimes I forget that how large we are as a city and how much need it is here in terms of affordable housing. But I want to make sure that I give access because that's who I am. I'm a people person. I'm not a suit and tie. I like this is what I wear. This is my uniform. Basically, I'm a people person. I get out there and I want to help others. I
right.
mentored a lot. I coached football. I did things like that. And that's what brings me to joy. Like sitting in this office, signing papers and doing deals or dealing with politics. Okay, that's my job. But when I go
Right.
out and get to talk to hug some of the clients, the seniors, play with the kids, things like that, that's what really makes my heart grow and go.
That's awesome. So where did your passion for affordable housing, like how did you even think of this to get into? Like where did this come from?
It was I fell upon it right when I was in school. Football didn't work out like I wanted. Boxing, I did really well in boxing, won Golden Gloves. But I decided that I needed to change, right? And again, I
Okay.
said that I wasn't a book smart person like that. I wasn't studying all the time, but I realized that my brain was a muscle also. And so
Yep.
if I worked a little harder, I could learn just like I bench press or something like that. So
Yep.
after sports, I kind of got into student housing, also resident assistant,
Okay.
resident hall manager, whatever you call it. But
Okay.
that started my first look at housing, but it was student
Mhm.
housing. And
Okay.
after I got out, it was a job open in East Chicago, Indiana, for an accountant at the housing authority. So I applied and ended up getting a job, and it blossomed from there.
And so now you're here in Houston and it
Yeah,
blossomed from there.
that's
So you
28 year career in housing.
28 years?
Yeah, right out of college.
Wow. That's good. That you know what? That is I have to commend you for that because that's almost unheard of now.
Yeah.
So I have to commend you for that. And then you did that also as a single father
Yeah.
through some of those years. So I
Yes.
also have to commend you for that because you've done great with your son and daughter. So kind of tell us how was that climbing the career ladder and also being a single parent at the same time?
Well, again, it's the village. I had, a tremendous amount of support, but I had to make some real decisions. I wanted to be different. So, things happen, right? You can look at the divorce rate. It's unfortunate. It's like that. I married, my kid's mom right out of college. We had a good relationship. Things went a little sour, no hard feelings, but we lived in Lake County, Illinois, and we were both from like the Midwest, Gary, East Chicago area.
Mhm.
I took a big job out there, built my family a home, in a good community. It was really trying to change the situation, the trajectory, right? Getting out of the inner city, all that kind of stuff. Um, she didn't like it there, so she wanted to leave. I wanted to stay. I just had got a new job. I can't just leave like that. I'm the one that's supporting the family. So we ended up getting a divorce, and I wanted her to stay, and we can have a divorce. We can probably get back together. But when she said she was going to take my kids and go back to Indiana, which was 2 hours away, I had to fight for it. And I wanted to be a co-parent. And if I couldn't be a co-parent, I was going to be a parent. So I had to, take that responsibility. I had to overcome those obstacles that was related to it. And so I did the things to try to be a good man, a good father to my kids, but also be an example for other kids within the community.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So as you progressed through your career, how did you balance that? I know you said the village, but from a man's perspective, I would love to hear more about that, because that's something I don't think I hear most men talk about.
It was challenging, believe me. It was those teary days and nights, that I had to learn how to comb my daughter's hair when I couldn't find nobody. You just don't want any people coming to your household doing things like that. And so I really don't know how I did it. My mom and my stepfather, who I truly believe my father is, they came and helped me. They lived in Indiana. And when I had business trips and things like that, they would come and stay with the kids to allow me that responsibility. Daycare cost a lot, so I spent a lot of money making sure my kids was in daycare and on different sports teams. And then, like again, the village. If my neighbor's son played with my son in football, he's like, "Well, I pick him. I take him. You pick him up. I'll be off work. I pick him up." So.
Wow,
and
that's awesome.
we lived in a community that was only 2% African American. So I was, the CEO of the housing authority. I ended up, being in PTO, and then end up running for school board. And I was the first African American elected school board member there. And I coached sports teams. So I did a lot, but coaching allowed me to being on PTO and doing all that allowed me to be close to my kids and really get it. But it was, it was a challenge. I don't know how I did it when I look back at it.
Man, it's like when you're in there, you don't think about it, right? But then when you sit down and reflect, now that your kids are grown, you're probably like, I don't know how I did it, but like, thank you, God. You know what I'm saying?
I know. By the grace of God,
I'm almost there. So I'm excited. I'm almost there, but I'm excited.
You'll get there.
So let's kind of debunk some myths about affordable housing. So kind of walk us through, because there's so much negativity and positivity around affordable housing. So can you just kind of educate us in that space? I'd love to learn more.
Yeah, well, first of all, housing in general is the bedrock to any community. And so affordable housing is even more important because we're dealing with the community's most vulnerable. Unfortunately, some people, when they have more money or better schools, they don't want poor individuals in their communities. And the myth is, if poor people come in my community, then crime rate is going to increase, or the school performance will drop. Right. The real issue, the real thing with it is that you're going to learn how to deal with all kind of people. You're going to learn the lower income people, and the lower income people may learn, some with you, and then you can build as a community. And it's all just about community. Or my property tax will go down.
Okay.
Right. Not my property tax, but my property value may go down.
Yeah.
But if we don't have affordable housing, and you look at it like this, people always say, "Oh, not teachers, nurses, firemen, and all that need affordable housing." The young lady that work on my front desk, she need affordable housing. She shouldn't have to drive an hour and a half away. It's not just, some of it's workforce housing. Her kids deserve to be in good schools just like my kids were. Right. And so if it's housing there, they need that. And then on another side of it, most people, I did it because I left Gary, right? I moved to a new state. So I moved to the suburbs. And what I moved to was because good schools, and it was only 10 minutes from my job. So that was perfect for me, right? Great location, affordable housing for me. But some people, they don't look at it like that. I don't want to, most people that live in the urban core don't want to run to the suburbs. They have to. In order to get those good items like good schools, safer communities, fresh foods. So affordable housing, having that diversity, it creates better opportunity for the city overall, right? If Microsoft decided to come to Houston, everybody don't make six figures. They need housing for the other staff people that may not make six figures. So it's really a bunch of myths, NIMBY, not in my backyard situations.
Okay. Not in my backyard situation. See, you taught us something there. Well, I think I told you this before. I'm from San Diego. And the reason I ended up in Houston is because trying to find somewhere to live in San Diego as a single mom was pretty much impossible. There's no such thing as affordable housing. I think there is, but I've never seen it. So yeah, so I definitely am a proponent for it. I think it's important. Uh, and I also am a proponent for making sure our kids have access to things that they don't, because they don't normally see. It's
Yeah.
something about kids have such great imaginations, David, which you know this, and giving them access and resources to things, it only opens up the possibilities of the world to them. And I definitely think through affordable housing and just being able to engage with people they probably would normally be able to engage with because they can't afford to live in a certain area, it opens them up to so much more opportunity.
One of the big things I push in my leadership role is access. So we've taken a bunch of the kids to the Astros games. Some of them got championship replica rings, and I go with them. I may not stay the whole
Mhm.
game, but I go with them and talk to them and things like that and play around with them. It's really nice. For some reason, some of them thinking I'm the real president. I'm the president and CEO of the House Authority. I was like, "Are you in the White House?" I'm like, "No." But see, that's the access. If you don't know, you
Right,
don't know, right?
right.
And so, and why do we have kids that live a mile away from the Astro Stadium or a mile away from the Rocket Stadium, right? And
Yeah,
you see seats that's empty,
yeah,
and nobody think to give these young people opportunity that they
yeah.
may change their whole life by just giving them that type of opportunity and access.
I agree with you 100%. So I see a push lately. I don't know if you've been seeing this too about like mixed income housing, affordable housing, people starting to develop affordable housing. I have some friends that are starting to get into that space. Why? Tell me what on from your aspect, what are you seeing?
Well, it's a need. A lot of
Okay.
people, I get calls from everybody. We're trying to get into the development field, rappers, actors. They say,
Yeah.
how can we do it? Can you come sit down and talk to us? Give us an opportunity to get in this type of industry because there's money made there,
Yeah.
just like anything. And we're in right now, the cost of, market rate housing is high. You know, uh, Affordable housing, you can develop it and you can still, make money. You may not make as much, but some people feel good about it and they can make money.
Okay.
So the industry is booming.
The industry is booming. So for someone, okay, so then for someone looking to get into it, what would you tell them to get started? Because that's a question that I've gotten.
Well, start with education. You got
Okay.
to understand what a low income housing tax credit is, right? You can't do that if you don't start looking up affordable housing development. They have courses that you can take, national courses you can take, become a certified developer of affordable housing, learn how to do, I'm speaking French to some people.
Yeah.
Um, some people may speak French on here, but like pro formas, right? We put
Yep.
the pro forma together to make sure the deal work, with capital stack.
Yep.
There's so many things that you can go and you can learn. Sometimes you may go to a housing authority's board meeting, go to the state capitol when the housing community development during their meetings. You can meet a few people, say, hey, how do I get a part of this, or how can I get involved with it, and you can learn from there.
That's awesome. And I thank you for that because that's a real question that I get. And I don't know because that's why I have access to people like you and just so gracious to get you on here to kind of help us educate us and move the needle further. So I want to talk to you about kind of shifting gears a little bit. I want to talk to you more about your leadership style. You're such an impactful and dynamic leader, and I would definitely call you a global leader. So what has kind of cultivated that for you?
Well, sports, right?
Okay.
That's leadership. You learn how to win and lose. You learn how to pull people up when they fall down, and that's just something that's about my leadership style. I have a diverse and mixed leadership style. It's probably all over all over the spectrum, depending on who you leading at the time. You
Okay.
can't be rigid and just have this one style.
Right.
Depending on the size of the organization you're running, depending on the size of the department you're running, or depending on the size. Depending on what outcome you're looking for, you got to have a
Hmm.
different and diverse leadership style. Throughout my career, being a leader and a mentor, I've created probably at least 3 CEOs in housing industry, and a bunch of like leaders in other levels, higher levels of leadership. One young lady, I asked her to come with me when I left one agency and go to another. She was only 26, but I saw, and believed in her, right? And I even sat with her parents and said, hey, I know it's weird, but a man taking your daughter somewhere else, I can tell you she's like a little sister to me, and I'm gonna make sure she's good. When I left
Mm-hmm.
that housing authority, I prepared her so well, taught her some of the leadership skill sets that I had. When I left,
Mm-hmm.
she became the CEO.
I
So
love
she
it.
was the CEO at 29 of a housing authority. And that was because of the leadership style I had in terms of making sure people get involved, not being micromanaging, giving them an opportunity. I may go over something that they did later, but giving them the opportunity, make them do the research. Get on Google, get on YouTube, search housing authorities, search what we need to do to develop this type of program. It's not rocket science. It's there somewhere. So pushing
Hmm.
people out and making them grow,
Okay.
not
So
being a
you,
dick. Sometimes you got to be a dictator too, though. So
okay. Okay. So you admit that you sometimes you do have to be a dictator. But something you said that I want to kind of go deeper in that I found interesting was the fact that you said you took the time to acknowledge that she had a gift and she could replace you. But you also took the time to help her grow in that gift and mentor her. What made you understand the importance of preparing the way for those behind you, coming behind you?
I'm gonna be honest, right? I
Mhm.
saw the skill
Please.
set in her, and her
Uh-huh.
skill set, the skill set she had helped me in my role,
Okay.
right? So it was a win-win.
Yeah.
While she worked under me, I was able to be more successful because I can trust her to do the job effectively. And so I
Okay.
gave her more. Same thing that my boss did with me early on. When he saw I had the abilities, he let me do more things.
Mhm.
My first boss is funny. I would take his car to get it washed, right? And people
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, you a brown nose, or you this." Well, if a man let you take his car, he got all his personal stuff in there. He trusts you, and then that
Yeah.
trust led to giving me more opportunities to be around him, more opportunities to be successful in different ways. And so that's early on, I learned that, man, if you give people opportunity, if you can trust some individuals, you can't trust everybody. But
Right.
it showed, if he wouldn't allow me to do that, I wouldn't be here today. And so I
Wow.
need to allow others to do that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think out of everybody that I've had on that really speaks to leadership and has spoken to leadership, you're probably the second person that understands the importance of pouring into that generation behind you, allowing them the opportunity. I feel like a lot of people kind of covet the seat and feel like they'll be there forever. And because of that, they don't tap or position who's next, right? So then they die out. And then we don't that person that they could have been helping, mentoring, cultivating, they're mad because the thing dies out, or they just haven't positioned a person to take over. So I commend you for understanding the importance of that, because I think that's something we don't understand and we don't take advantage of.
Mm. I mean, like I said, I worked at what, 7 housing authorities, CEO at 5.
Mhm.
So I've been able to learn, grow, and move on. This is the largest housing authority I had the opportunity to run, and so it's kind of been stepping stones up.
Okay. That's great, David. So let me ask you this question. For those who have access to someone that they could learn from or glean from, what are things you look for in a mentee?
Uh, I mean, I think sometimes it's just a natural bond. Like some
Okay.
people, like you said, like it's hard to have access. A lot of people want to get to me.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, "Oh, he's successful, so I want to be around him. I want to be in his ear." I don't have time for all that, but it has to be something special I see in the individual. And sometimes it's just not they're the smartest person in the room. Sometimes they're the
Right.
quietest person in the room. I want to know why you're so quiet,
Right.
right? I wasn't like I say the smartest person in class, but all those smart people now want to work for me.
Right.
They the architects, the engineers, and all that kind of stuff. So they come in trying to work for me. So
So let's talk about some of the future goals of the housing authority. Can you kind of divulge that a little bit for us?
I know we want to improve our brand here in the city of Houston. Also, make sure the individuals know really what we do. The lack
Okay.
of education to individuals that's not either working in the housing industry or utilizing some of our resources is not out there. So if they
Okay.
see something, they look at it differently. And so the education is so important. Getting into the community, making sure that individuals know we're a real business. We affect the economy. Not only
Yes.
are we requiring roofs, we're the largest independent, we're the largest small business partner in the city, our landlords. We
Mhm.
have over 50 5,000 something landlords that work with us. All
Wow.
these vendors, the money going around and around in terms of whether it's paying for housing, helping individual with housing, whether it's developing properties, that's helping the economic impact. That's a big economic impact on the city, providing a lot of job opportunities. And so it's not just dealing with poor people. It's been a real business, and that's something that we're really trying to gleam upon. And then accountability, being more
Mm.
transparent. And so again, I've been here just now 2 years, and I think we've done a good job of bringing some of that up. And now, just to be honest, a lot of people just don't like affordable housing, as I mentioned earlier. So it's a challenge. So really getting the right team together to make that
Mhm.
happen. But also, you're gonna take your bumps. So
Yeah.
not being afraid to get out there.
So what has been your biggest lesson you've learned in leadership over 28 years? Like what has been that pivotal moment that kind of changed your whole perspective?
Um, don't be afraid.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to lead. Don't be afraid of the media. Don't be afraid of elected officials, because they're human just like you. And really, it's about learning and educating, you know, um, building those relationships, with people. So not being afraid is part of that. I would think it was building relationships because you build
Building
relationships with the
relationship.
media. They try and do their job. I get it, right?
Right.
Their job is to find something or put out different articles and things like that. That's their job. My job
Hmm.
is to house people. That don't mean we
Hmm.
can't sit and break bread. So building
Correct.
those solid relationships.
So let's talk about. So you're speaking my language now. I'm huge on relationship building. I think we don't do it intentional. We're not very intentional about it. I think especially now with social media, we don't understand the importance of having real relationships. So kind of talk to us through of how you've been able to navigate building relationships and just growing those relationships.
I think that's been one of the reasons I've been able to be so successful. When I meet people, uh, I get out there and I speak at various conferences and things like that. So people come up to me, doing stuff for others, right?
Hmm.
And I think that was one of the biggest things that helped me when I was younger. I did a lot of things for people that I didn't get paid for.
Okay.
Sit on the boards, go to some of the local community events, serve. Like I said, coach football. You build relationships. You never know whose son playing next to you. That's
Right.
playing next to your son or on the team you coaching. You know, uh, Again, just going to some places that's non-traditional and meeting people. Going in a room, I'll go in a room that I don't know nobody and shake everybody's hand and hey, how you doing? And people probably like, who is this? Right. But then after that, they feel like they know me.
Yeah.
And then stay consistent. When I meet people, I don't do it a whole lot no more because people don't use business cards. I always put like something on the back of the business card. Then try to respond to them and reach back out and say, "Hey, I remember I met you here. I just wanted to reach out and say hello. Have a chance to talk. Please reach out." So doing things like that, and you build relationships, and people remember that.
They definitely do. They definitely do. And you're great at that. So I can attest that David is great at building relationships, and making sure people remember him. He's definitely not a forgettable person. Um, David, so you've met some really interesting people and gotten to break bread with some pretty amazing people and be in rooms with some pretty amazing people that we probably would just like swoon over and want to faint, right? Um, so
I don't
how
know
has
about all that now, but I've been around some pretty good tables though.
David, don't take away my hype. I was being
Oh, okay,
serious.
okay. Yeah, believe everything she's saying. She was 100% right.
I love it. But yeah, so you've been around some pretty amazing tables and rooms. So when you're in those rooms, how does one navigate when they get to your level, right? And they get into those rooms with some pretty affluent, high, like the highest of the highs, right? How do you navigate those rooms compared to the rooms where you're just working on getting in the room?
Yeah. Again, it's about building relationships, communicating with people.
Mhm.
Pretending like you know them.
Okay.
Learn something about them, especially if it's somebody if it's like Secretary Fudge. When I first met her, it was like we had a great conversation. We talked about being from the Midwest, and after that, we started texting each other every now and then. Hey, how you
Mhm.
doing? I saw this happening. You just stay consistent like that. And I would never think. That was two secretaries I had their personal cell phone numbers that we'll communicate with. You know,
Mhm.
Secretary of HUD, and I'm just one of 3,500 housing authorities throughout this nation. And so I
Right.
don't know if I'm pretty sure she didn't give everybody her cell phone number,
I'm
but for
pretty
some
sure she
reason,
probably,
I was
yeah.
able to get in the room with her, and had that conversation. And she trusted me enough to give me her personal cell. And she reached out to me. I reached out to her every now and then. So it's just navigating it. I mean, I don't think you can write a book on it, right? It'll have a whole lot of chapters, and each chapter will be a little different. But for each person, it'll be different. For each room, it's kind of different. There's no one way set that you go in there and do that.
But that's good what you said, that each room, and you gave some nuggets. So that's the important of they say, that I feel like, because everybody might not have time to be able to get, or you might not have time to get on everybody's calendar, right? But getting in these intentional spaces, which I appreciate, because you could have been doing anything at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday. But getting in these spaces where people can interview and ask questions, so we can find out, like, what did you do to become successful? How can we learn and glean from you? Because you're not going to be able to mentor everybody. So I'm grateful that you were willing to just sit down with us and have this conversation.
No problem. No problem. I don't. Really, I think that again, I'm gonna go back to my faith, right? What they say, favor is not fair.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yep.
I think I was developed. The Lord gave me a certain skill set. Like I said earlier, skill sets, and my skill set, it was to be a leader and lead and to serve. And so I'm just doing what skills I was given to do, because it's been able to fall in place. Now I've had my obstacles, and I went through my trials and tribulations when I thought it wouldn't happen, and it always ended up happening in the right way.
Okay, so talk about that. Let's talk about that, because I also speak to entrepreneurs too. So let's talk about those trials and tribulations. How did you maintain your focus and your faith as you're going through?
Well, I wouldn't maintaining it, right? So it's
Yeah,
sometimes where you don't have it no more. You like, you know what? I'm gonna say me. Sometimes I was like,
right.
oh, it's over with. I can't take it no more type stuff. But
Right.
it always come around. Like, you think of the worst at times, and then it all come out in the right way. You like, man, I was down for this, and it wasn't even an issue. So now I kind of look at it as, the steps are ordered, right? Maybe this is part of that lesson. I've learned so many lessons in this industry of
Mhm.
decisions I may have made, or whether it's to go get this job, or not go to this meeting, or don't take this deal. It's just happens. You're gonna have those wins and losses, and I just think the steps are ordered.
I think that's true, and I'm in agreement with you. I definitely think our steps are ordered. So I'm not gonna keep you on forever, which I
All right.
know we can, but but I want to hit some more of these points, and then I'm gonna ask you your they say.
Okay.
So how can we, as a local body of people, get involved with our local housing authorities? Like, what do you recommend that we do?
Well, one of the things I'm working on now, and me and my team is working on, is to create a community engagement, where we have community members help advise the housing authorities on how this housing authority on different things, how they feel, so it'll help us communicate out. If we get regular citizens that be able to sit down and tell us about what they think about housing, or
Mhm.
pass some ideas. We get our appointed boards, and we have our clients that we serve directly, but the regular citizens that can get involved and kind of help and support. Again, when we have issues in terms of NIMBY, where people may not want affordable housing in their communities, we get 80 people at the board meeting complaining about it,
Mhm.
and they have a right to express their concerns. That's totally legitimate. That's totally fair, that they express their concerns. But we never have anybody that appreciate or care about affordable housing there, right? It's just
Really?
it's just one side. And so at a couple of groundbreakings we had, where we had partnered with some great developers, when I speak, I tell them that. I was like, don't just come to the ribbon cuttings and the groundbreakings. When we
Don't
have,
just come for the photos.
yeah,
Come before.
exactly.
Okay.
Come in. For example, we service here over 60-some thousand citizens, on
Mhm.
our federally funded programs, and if 3 or 4 people get upset, it become a major issue. And really, as a leader, I don't want nobody to have a bad experience. Never. But out of 60,000 people, 60,000 plus people, 2 people have a bad experience. I'm not saying that's not something I care about, but if you
Mhm.
look at the big picture, nobody's perfect.
Right.
If you point me to a perfect person, I would be very surprised. And so, but I can learn from that experience and help lead my team so we won't make that have that issue happen or
Right.
correct it. If you got a
Right.
problem, let's fix it and let's move on from
But we got to show up to be able to fix it. Is that what I'm hearing?
it. Exactly. You got to show up and be willing to listen. But I think the community can really get involved by coming to our board meetings, maybe helping some of our community events, or just basically reading, paying attention
Yeah.
to what we're doing.
Yeah. I think that's great. And I think you dropped some nuggets there that we need to unpack. So, what I heard was don't just come take a photo op, which is important, right? We want to actually be there doing the work. So, that's important to anybody that really loves the community, right? You want to actually be doing the work and not just come for a photo. And get engaged with what you guys got going on. Come to the meetings. Speak at your events, come to your board meetings. So there's more and then have both sides be heard. So we're not just hearing just the one negative side or the one positive side, but we're balanced. So is that what I'm hearing correctly?
Yeah, because they're going to expect us to talk positive about it because we're affordable housing people,
Right.
right?
Right.
But the lay citizen that maybe need it or just appreciate it, should be able to show up and say, hey, I was on affordable housing and I overcame these obstacles, and now I run this business, or me and my family live out in a community, and I was able to give my voucher or whatever to somebody else that can be helped, right? Or talk about, from what I saw, the health authority got 40,000 people on their wait list. So why shouldn't we allow more affordable housing in communities and make it diverse? We don't want to
Right.
saturate one area with all low income people.
Right.
That's how we start having issues.
So another thing I'm hearing is the importance of mixed income housing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about that, because maybe some of us don't know. I know, but maybe others don't know.
Yeah. So it's based on your income levels. And so say if you have 100 units, 20 of those units would be market rate units where you make higher incomes, and other units may be broken down into various income levels, area medium income, like 80, 60, or 30. And so you have a diverse community of some people, and some of the 30%, 30 and below AMIs may be seniors or people with disabilities, and then the higher incomes. And again, that mix diversifies that whole community versus you having a community of 100, 30% and below AMIs. The average income for our program participants is like $13,000.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So I didn't know that. That's amazing. $13,000. Wow.
Yeah.
So this is necessary. Very much so.
Exactly.
Wow. Wow, David, you just took my breath away. I don't know how I feel about that. Like my heart kind of dropped a little bit.
No, it's it's real. Like a study was done by the Kenner Institute for along with Harris County back in 2021, and it said in order to keep up with the need of affordable housing, we need to create for a county over 20,000 a year.
Wow.
And so when we look at the homeless population growing, when we're looking at, and some of that's quality housing, right? Sometimes you have housing, but it's, not decent, safe, and sanitary. Or,
Right.
or it's a senior that have to walk upstairs when she has a disability or something like
Right.
that.
Right.
It's even maybe older public housing projects that didn't have AC, which we did a great project earlier this year, putting AC. I'm like, Houston, no AC.
Yeah,
that,
you're not
that
gonna
was,
yeah, that's
yeah,
rough.
yeah, that
That's
was
rough.
rough. So
And congratulations for you for putting in those ACs and getting some contractors out there to put the ACs in. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think that was it was a win. I wouldn't even say it was a win for us. It was a win for the citizens and the people that we serve, because that's a necessity. We had AC up north in Gary and Chicago area. So down here in Houston, where we had some of the hottest summers and it's continuing getting hotter, we have to think about being responsible for the
Yeah.
people we serve. And I think the agency, Houston Housing Authority, was being responsible and making sure our residents that we serve was in a safe environment.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you brought up a point. So now we'll have a fun. We'll finish fun, because I've had you in this like work mode. So let me bring you out just a little bit. So how is it? So there's a difference between the North and the South, right?
Yeah.
So what have been some of those differences that you've been able to partake in?
Weather is one for certain. Weather is one for certain. But It's more, well, depending on where you go in the South, right?
Yeah.
I lived and worked in Birmingham, Alabama. It's a little different from Houston, and so it depends on where you are. But one of the things for certain is some of the access um, to certain things that you may not have, well, especially from Indiana, where I'm from. I can compare Indiana to Houston. Where
Okay.
I'm from, we didn't have the access or opportunities for jobs creation as much. We didn't have the type of restaurants and major uh, uh, markets in terms of galleria and things like that. We just didn't
Mhm.
have that there. And then like every market you have, they based on the market, they sell a type of merchandise, whether it's food,
Mhm.
whether it's clothing. And so I can tell you for somebody that's from Indiana, the quality of some of the foods and the type of some of the clothing and things like that is much different. Other
Okay.
than people, I'm a people person. So, I'm gonna get in where I fit in constantly because I am a people person. So I don't really see a difference in people. A lot of times people say people in the South are nicer, people in the Midwest, or up north may not be as nice. I
Mhm.
think the weather helps. You get depressed when it's cold all the time and it's dark early and it's freezing. I mean, that's studies that show that. So being warmer all year round, being able to wear shorts during Christmas time sometimes, it makes a big difference. So being here in Houston or being here down south, I totally appreciate it.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So as we come to an end, what is your they say? What did they say that you couldn't do or accomplish that you've done?
So you already said it. They say I couldn't do it, but I've
Oh,
done it over and over
but
again.
tell us what they said. What did they say you weren't gonna do?
They said I wasn't gonna go to college. They said, I wouldn't get into the special program. That I wouldn't be president of our industry group in DC. Um, that I wouldn't win custody of my kids. I mean, it was a lot of they say you wouldn't, right? So, but I've been blessed and fortunate to be able to overcome that and not really looking at it on the detriment of somebody else. It was because something I fought for, I wanted, and whether it was a job, whether it was getting in better shape,
Right.
no matter what it was, right? And so a lot of times you'll tell a friend. I remember in college, I said, man, I'm gonna start boxing, and I think I can, do pretty good at it. And they was like, man, you can't box like that. I ended up winning gold gloves. So I worked hard for it. Like I said before, your brain, just like your bicep, is a muscle. As long as you work hard on it, you'll be able to accomplish it. Now, everybody may not win golden gloves, but you can still have a successful boxing, opportunity or an experience. So a
I
lot
love
of times I've done a whole lot. So people say, you can't do that. They say you can't do that, and I've been able to do it.
Yep. I love it. You know that you're speaking my language, so I get it and I love it. So I just want to first of all, I just want to thank you again. Um, I thank you for being my 12th guest, and I just thank you for spending this time with us and being very intentional. I feel like you've dropped so many valuable nuggets that if we pick them up and run with them, there's no reason for us to have a day say. So I'm excited for your future. Don't forget about us as you go elevate. Just remember the people that got you there,
No,
and,
hey, believe me,
and
I told you, I'm who I am. I'm not I'm not this person. This is my job, right?
yeah,
It just so happened I utilize some of the skill sets either way, but I'm just a regular person like everybody else that's just working differently.
I love that. And I think that's why one thing I kind of appreciate about your leadership is you're the type of leader, you're a leader for the people. And when people feel like they can touch you, it's different. It's a different type of leader when they feel like they can touch you, that you're relatable, that you know what it took to get to where they're at, or you understand their struggle. And even if you don't understand it, you're taking the time to at least listen to their story and what got them there. So just continue to be great. We are rooting for you. We are cheering for you. You've made such a huge impact on the city of Houston, and there's so much more greatness in store for you. So I'm excited for your future. And I just thank you for spending this time with us and dropping these nuggets, because you could have been doing anything in the world. So we are not taking that for granted.
Believe me, I still got a couple hours of work to do, but I appreciate this time. But I think this is important, right? I was able to help educate a few people around here about affordable housing and some of the things that we do. And again, I totally appreciate you allowing me to be a 12th guest.
Stop it. Well, that concludes this week's They Say. I am so excited that David spent the time with us. And then the greatest part is next week, I have another phenomenal guest. So you guys continue to hang in there with me. I appreciate your support on my journey. And we're just going to go up from here. So you guys have a great weekend. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.